Good morning. We'll call the meeting to order. Just to note that our meetings may be recorded and may be posted on the Wheatland County website or via social media. We do have an agenda before us. Does anybody have any additions or deletions?
Madam Chair, I have two additions for two in-camera items. The first one would be a legal matter with the subject of Lakes of Muirfield. And then the second addition would be an in-camera labor matter with fire services.
We'll make that 4.1 and 4.2.
And I would like to add, probably should be in camera, capital funding for the Wheatland Housing Board.
We'll make that 4.3. Brian, do you know the FOIP on that? 6.
You know what? I'd have to take a look at the exact sections.
No worries. We'll get it for when we note it. Councillor Kester?
Is that Rocky Ford Lions, does that need to be on the agenda, or is that a given?
We can add it for sure. So there was a request for sponsorship / plaque for the Rocky Ford Lions for the 75th anniversary. So we can add that as well. That is just a regular addition.
Let's put that 2.3 business arising. Is that? Do we want new business? 2.410. Let's do that. 2.410. Rocky Ford Lions. That's for their anniversary.
Yes, that's correct.
Anything else? A motion to accept the agenda? Oh, yeah. Oh, sorry. Okay. A motion to approve the agenda?
I'll move the amended agenda.
Councillor Armstrong has moved. All in favor? Motion is carried. We had minutes circulated from our regular council meeting of February 4th. Administration has noted one correction, just removing the interim from the CAO position on page 3 of the package. Any other changes? A motion to approve? Councillor Eichert has moved. All in favor? Motion is carried. We have a couple of public hearings. I will move that the process for the Wheatland County Council meeting as it pertains to the scheduled public hearings will be as follows. Public hearing, first reading if required, then consideration for further readings of the bylaw for those public hearings that have been closed. I further move that the above process will take place with the absence of resolutions to go into and out of council before and after each public hearing. All in favor? Motion is carried. Call the public hearing to order for bylaw 2019-30. Good morning.
Good morning.
Just a question if any member of the public has an objection to any councillor sitting on council for the public hearing. And if we can just verify that circulation was done according to the MGA.
It was.
Perfect, thank you.
So this is the public hearing for bylaw 2019-30 to redesignate approximately 2.43 acres of land from agricultural general to a new direct control district. This parcel is adjacent to Range Road 245. It is approximately 2.5 kilometers east of Strathmore. So the purpose of the application is to redesignate that portion highlighted on the map you can see on the screen there of Northwest 292424 west of the 4th. If council grants the redesignation, a development permit application will follow for the existing automotive and equipment services business. The business has been in operation for over a decade and there have been no complaints. The county has no record that the existing business has ever applied or received a development permit. The landowners did explain that they were told no development permit was necessary for their business. However, the information that they were given was incorrect. So as staff was unable to find records or written confirmation, the business cannot be deemed legal non-conforming, and a development permit is still required. So because the business doesn't fall under any of the permitted or discretionary uses within the agricultural general district, a redesignation is required. So after several discussions with the landowners to find a solution, it was determined that a new direct control district would best meet their needs. So the proposed redesignation aligns with the South Saskatchewan Regional Plan, the Regional Growth Management Strategy, and the Municipal Development Plan. It supports the diversification of the agricultural economy. It isn't proposing to fragment productive agricultural land. It facilitates employment for the landowner within close proximity of their place of residence, and as the business has been in operation for several years, has proven that there are no land use conflicts. The application is for a new direct control district. So what we've done is we've included definitions for the agricultural support services, automotive and equipment services. This is in the instance that if the current land use bylaw definitions for these uses changes, the definitions will remain the same within the proposed district. The term parcel has also been defined to mean the portion of the titled parcel that is proposed to be redesignated. So just where it's been highlighted in red right there. And this is just being done to establish how setbacks will be measured for any future development permit applications. And staff has not received any comments from adjacent landowners, and then any comments that were received from internal staff have been accommodated through the definitions. And that concludes my presentation. Thank you.
Thank you. Would the applicant like to speak? Okay, you don't have to. Okay. I don't see anybody that would have concerns. Does staff have any final comments? Any questions? We'll close the public hearing for bylaw 2019-30. We can move to bylaw readings.
That council move second reading on bylaw 2019-30. This bylaw being the bylaw to redesignate 2.43 acres of Northwest 24 west of the 4th from Ag District to Direct Control. 18.
Questions or discussion? All in favor? Motion is carried.
I'll move third reading of bylaw 2019-30, this being a bylaw to redesignate plus or minus 2.43 acres of Northwest 24 west of the 4th from Ag General District to Direct Control District 18.
Any discussion? All in favor? Motion is carried.
Yeah, done.
Welcome.
All good.
Sorry for what government puts you through. I truly am.
I'll now open the public hearing for bylaw 2020-05, the bylaw for the Village of Hussar in Wheatland County Intermunicipal Development Plan.
Good morning. So this is the public hearing for bylaw 2020-05, the Village of Hussar and Wheatland County Intermunicipal Development Plan. So all municipalities that share a border are required to enter into an IDP as of the MGA amendments. There have been recent amendments to that say that if both municipalities agree, they don't have to enter into one. By that time that amendment came around, we had more or less finished, so we decided to continue with it. Lynn County and the Village of Hussar did not have a IDP at the time, and so this will be the first one. The IDP plan area encompasses approximately 2,090 acres of county land and includes parcels within the village that are directly adjacent to the intermunicipal boundary. Staff did not receive any concerns from landowners. There were just a couple of questions that we received regarding what an IDP was. The open house was quite successful. There were quite a few people who showed up with questions, of course, about what an IDP was, some clarifications about what it meant for their parcel. And then I believe there were some folks who had questions about annexation as well, and so they were notified that if Hussar wanted to annex, there was still that possibility. And that concludes my presentation. Thank you.
Thank you. Any questions? I'll close the public hearing for bylaw 2020-05. Council's wishes.
I'll move resolution 1, first reading.
Questions or discussion? All in favor? Motion is carried.
I'll move resolution. Still not here. Second reading for bylaw 2020-105.
Questions or discussion? All in favor? Motion is carried.
Just a question of process. If we held the public hearing and we had
Like approval?
I'm fairly certain that you do need the third one as well. I forget the exact section of the MGA.
Like you
but
mean approval for
for the unanimous approval for the third reading, I'm fairly certain that you do.
I feel like we do too if we do all three.
In the day.
Yeah,
Yeah.
in the same meeting.
Megan?
Megan's got a answer.
Through the reef, so all bylaws need to receive the third reading.
No, but the.
Yeah.
He means the unanimous
Oh, sorry. So
vote for,
if you're holding all three readings within one council meeting, unanimous consent does need to be given in order to move to third reading. If unanimous consent isn't granted, then it would have to go to the next council meeting.
we'll double check, but
I don't think it'll hurt.
Yes, so section 170 or 187 subsection 4. A proposed bylaw must not have more than 2 readings at a council meeting unless the councilors present unanimously agree to consider third reading. There is no mention about the public hearing on that, so I would kind of consider that a moot point.
yeah. Thank you. Thanks for the question though.
Well, I'll move that council will move for approval to proceed with third and final reading.
Questions or discussion? All in favor? Motion is carried unanimously. All in favor? Motion is carried. I'll now open the public hearing for bylaw 2020-06.
Good morning again. So this is the public hearing for bylaw 2020-06 for the Village of Rockyford and Wheatland County Intermunicipal Development Plan. So as with the previous public hearing, the municipalities that share a border are required to enter into an IDP. With the recent amendments, they're not required to so long as both municipalities agree. Again, this one had gotten to the point where we decided to continue with the IDP. This will be the first IDP between the two municipalities. As with the other village IDPs, the area of county land is approximately 1,650 acres, and the parcels that are directly adjacent to the municipal border within the village are considered part of the plan area. The IDP aligns with all of the statutory documents, and there are policies in the IDP as well that speak to the village needing to annex land. They're just required to have a conversation with us first. We did not receive any comments or concerns. just from landowners asking for more information on what an ITP is. And that concludes my presentation. Thank you.
Thank you. Any questions or discussion? Council's wishes?
I'll move first reading.
Oh, sorry. I'll close the public hearing first, sorry. I will close the public hearing for bylaw 2020-06. Thank you.
I'll move first reading.
Questions or discussion? All in favor? Motion is carried.
I'll move second reading of bylaw 2020-06.
Questions or discussion? All in favor? Motion is carried.
I'll move permission, approval to proceed with third and final.
Any questions? All in favor? Motion is carried unanimously.
I'll move third and final reading.
Any final questions or discussion? All in favor? Motion is carried. We'll now move to first reading and scheduling of the public hearing for bylaw 2019-12.
And last good morning. So this is to redesignate 67.09 acres of Plan 0411592, Block 1, Lot 2 of land from Agricultural General District to Industrial General. I will just pull the map up for you guys. It is right there. So it is within the West Highway 1 Area Structure Plan. The purpose of the application is to redesignate the parcel to Industrial General to prepare for future industrial development. The landowner had previously applied to subdivide the parcel in 2014, but due to complications with wetlands and stormwater drainage on the parcel, the subdivision application was withdrawn in favor of keeping the parcel together and redesignating it. When a development permit application is applied for, a biophysical impact assessment and stormwater plan may be asked for to ensure the proposed development doesn't impact the wetlands nor cause significant stormwater issues. A preliminary review of the South Saskatchewan Regional Plan, Municipal Development Plan, and Regional Growth Management Strategy did not reveal any pressing concerns. There is a policy within the West Highway 1 Area Structure Plan that says pre-zoning a parcel too far in advance of subdivision or development plans is discouraged. Staff does not have any concerns regarding the redesignation of the parcel ahead of development, as it does fall within an industrial area structure plan, and there are parcels within this quarter section that have already been redesignated to Industrial General. Staff circulated the application to external agencies and internal departments. No such significant concerns were raised. Concerns and comments received will be addressed at the subdivision and development permit stage. And that concludes my presentation. Thank you.
Thank you. Council's wishes.
I'll move that council move first reading of bylaw 2019-12 from agricultural general to industrial general.
Questions or discussion? All in favor? Motion is carried.
I'll move the public hearing for bylaw 2020-12 be scheduled for March 24th, 2020, here at 9 a.m.
Questions or discussion? All in favor? Motion is carried. Bylaw 2020-01. Good morning.
Good morning, council members. Bylaw 2020-01 is to redesignate 3 acres from Agricultural General District to Industrial General District, which will accommodate future subdivision of an existing stair construction business. This business has been in operation since 2005 and permitted since 2005 and has received no complaints. As you can see, it's on the map. It's located just north of the hamlet of Cheadle. It's also within the CMRB, but since this isn't proposing any changes to any of the statutory documents, we don't need to circulate CMRB in that case. This parcel also lies within the West Highway 1 area structure plan. Since this is a redesignation from agricultural to industrial general district, it generally aligns with the goals, intents, and purposes of the West Highway 1 area structure plan, as well as the municipal development plan, South Saskatchewan regional plan, regional growth management strategy, and the industrial general district of the land use bylaw. With that in mind, staff is recommending option 1, that council approve and move first reading and schedule a public hearing. And that concludes this presentation. Thanks.
Thank you. Council's wishes.
I'll move that first reading of bylaw 2020-01 to redesignate 3 acres from ag general to industrial general.
Questions or discussion?
Question, does this have to go through the CMR or Calgary Regional Board? Within our area structure plan, that's the difference.
Yeah, because we're not amending a statutory document, so we're good. Any other questions or discussion? All in favor? Motion is carried.
I'll move the public hearing for bylaw 2020-01 be scheduled for March 3rd, 2020 at 9 a.m. in Wheatland County Council Chambers.
Questions or discussion? All in favor? Motion is carried. Thank you. We'll move to 2.41, request to extend completion date for Rocky View County, Wheatland County IDP.
Good morning, Council. Before you on page 170 in the agenda package is an extension for the counties and Rocky Views County's intermunicipal development plan. We're requesting an extension because it is going past the April 1st, 2020 deadline. What we have here is, of course, within the CMRB zone, 2 counties coming together, and we have to actually bring it forward through the IREF process to CMRB, so it's just kind of a boilerplate extension request that we need resolution for.
I'll move the recommendation.
Questions or discussion? All in favor? Motion is carried. Thank you. The intermunicipal collaborative framework between Wheatland County and Newell County.
On page 172 of your agenda package, you have a supplemental ICF, the first brought forth for resolution.
Council's wishes.
I'll move the recommendation.
Councillor Wilson has moved. Any questions or discussion?
Looks good to me.
All in favor? Motion is carried. Do ICFs not have to be bylaws?
In accordance with the new Bill 25 amendments, they don't. It's more streamlined.
Member appointments for the Economic Development Board, 2.43.
According to the 2019 revised terms of reference, we're bringing forth a new member, Audra Reinhardt, to the Economic Development Board with a term expiring October 31st, 2021.
Council's wishes.
I'll move the recommended.
Councillor Kester has moved. Any questions or discussion? All in favor? Motion is carried. A second appointment.
Donna, you better prove you're here.
I'll move appointment of Christina Stender to the Wheatland County Economic Development Board.
This is a very good grab, actually.
Both of them are excellent additions. Any questions or discussion?
Just a question, are they residents of the county?
Yeah.
They're both from my division.
Yeah, whoop-de-doo.
Just saying, good people.
Yes, they are.
Excuse me, thank you.
Christina's father-in-law is my grandma's boyfriend.
I was there at their pig tasting.
All in favor? Motion is carried. 2.45, holiday train event report.
So before you is kind of a breakdown of how the holiday train planning took place, going through essentially all of the groups that came together and what the county had to essentially put forth in terms of staff, time, operating hours, etc. So it is really kind of that breakdown that was promised to council. We're hoping that we do have a blueprint moving forward so that we can kind of step back a little as council. It was very laborious in terms of how much staff time was put into this. It was a very successful event, but we're hoping, of course, that we can kind of pave the way forward for another community group to kind of spearhead it and take it and run with it. And if you have any questions, I'll gladly answer them.
Really good templates have been developed. Wendy Gerbrandt with Community Futures with our staff and representatives of each of the community groups. But Wendy really was the one that did a lot of the paperwork, and she's built kind of a template with timelines for events that need to happen and responsibilities that need to be kind of accounted for, and that's all drawn up and can be used in the future as well. So there's been some really good just work done there that will be able to be built upon in future years.
So is there a push for Gleason to have it again, or can Carsland go forward and try to get the
I don't know what the
stopped?
like the process. I know the Gleason community, in collaboration with Siksika Nation, do kind of put forward a request. So I think we did send a letter last year inviting them to Gleason or Carsland.
Yeah,
as
we
a
did.
council.
I'm wondering if we should maybe do that again as a council.
Letter to CP.
I'm just worried that they're going to say, okay, we've been at Gleason twice now. Let's pick another location. We might as well try to maybe get it still in the Wheatland County.
A lot of their stops they do fairly consistently, I've noticed over the years. They do new ones and change their route sometimes as well, but some of the routes I know they stop. I don't have an issue with sending a letter inviting them to Gleason or Cart, like,
Both of them.
yeah.
Thanking him for coming.
Similar, yeah, exactly,
Yeah.
similar to the
Okay,
letter
let's do
last
that.
time.
If
Do you want to
that's
make a
agreeable.
motion?
I'll make a motion to send a letter to CP, thanking them for stopping at Gleason and Siksika and offering them to come again next year to either that location or Carsland.
We've sent a letter historically like that we could build on.
We can do that. So just to be clear, both locations, so Gleason and or. Okay.
It's what we did last time, just
Sounds good.
welcoming them, letting them know we looked forward to working with them in either community.
Awesome.
Okay.
Any questions or discussion on the motion? All in- oh,
Just for everybody's, we bought some hot dogs that didn't all get sold.
Oh,
So 15 dozen,
you still have some left?
20 dozen went out to Standard Family Day on Monday. So
Oh, good.
there's still hot dogs out there if anybody's interested. No buns, though. The buns died. They freezer burned, so.
I think council lunch from here until eternity should just be hot dogs.
Where's the resignate, how do you resignate?
Any other questions or discussion regarding the motion? All in favor? Motion is carried.
I'll move to accept his information.
Thank you. Any questions or further discussion regarding the CP holiday train? All in favor? Motion is carried. Good morning.
Morning, Council.
Morning, Mike.
Morning. The request you see before you is for the installation of a, excuse me, stop sign at the intersection of Range Road 245 and Township 244. Location just northwest of the county office here, just east of our, what we call our Slaughterhouse Road, east of Strathmore. So you can see by the RFD here, this request is actually, or this intersection has been a concern for a number of years. There's limited sight lines coming from the east, traveling westbound. You can see there's a large grove of trees on the northeast corner of this intersection. This photo is facing east on the Township Road.
Is that a yard?
What's that?
Is that a yard? No? Yeah, that's Mike's place.
So the seal coat here, the seal coat just ends after the intersection. We're currently rebuilding this Range Road 245 right now. So there is a stop sign traveling westbound to stop the traffic here. we had a yield sign installed here to slow the traffic down, but from what I understand, there's still a fair amount of concern over people not obeying that sign. So an easy solution is to install a stop sign traveling eastbound to stop as much traffic as we can at this intersection. The future intent is also to have this road seal coated or MRO'd. In the future, we have that on the plan. So this road will have a paved surface, and typically we take the higher traveled road and put stop signs adjoining that.
Council's wishes.
I've had several people phone me about these, actually both of these intersections, so that's why they're brought forward. I brought them forward to Mike.
So are you going to move it then?
Yes, I will move. Just looking for it. Approve the recommendation.
Page 188.
Motion to approve the installation of stop sign controlling eastbound traffic at intersection of Range Road 245 and Township Road 244.
Questions or discussion? All in favor? Motion is carried.
Okay, the next RFD here is a similar request. It's at the intersection of Range Road 253 and Township Road 262. This is farther north and west of Strathmore there. Similar situation. The intersection has joins the intersection at a skew here, so it's a little bit difficult for the road users to see traffic coming from the west. This is looking northbound on the Range Road. You can see that the road skews around this water body, and because of that comes at quite an angle from the west here. Similar situation, the sight lines people aren't necessarily obeying the yield signs that are installed on the northbound lanes here. It's quite a wide intersection here. I didn't have a picture of it, but it's got a large radius around here, so it makes it a little more difficult for the vehicles or people to see traffic coming from all four directions there. So similar situation, requested a stop sign be put here just to limit any future concerns.
Council's wishes.
This one also I've had quite a few calls about. There's lots of usually washboard at this intersection too, and really sandy. And that's also the road everybody's using to go to Balzac now, so it's fairly busy. So I'll make the motion to council approve the installation of stop signs.
I don't use it.
Stop signs controlling north and southbound traffic at the intersection of 253 and Township Road 262.
Questions or discussion?
Just one stop sign?
North and southbound, right?
2 stop signs, that's correct. Yeah.
Any other questions? All in favor? Motion is carried.
Yes. Oh, okay. Okay, I will follow up on that. I understood that was going to happen that week, so.
Councilor Bigger has a question as well.
Mike? Remember that 901 and 817? We were looking at lights. We were going to, did anybody get back to us about that?
Through the chair, that was an investigation we did to have lights installed on that intersection. We got as far as receiving a quote on installation. I want to say it was around $20,000 to $30,000 to install those lights. I believe that is basically where that ended. I don't think we had any further direction from council or confirmation from AT that those lights would be acceptable or installed. Just a follow-up on that, I actually met with AT on Friday about a lot of the projects that we've met with them up north, just some updates on where they're at with that. I was going to update council at the March meeting, but that did come up, that intersection. It's definitely not in their 5-year plan now. They are looking at extending it out farther to have that intersection realignment done. So that may be something, if there is still a concern about lighting at that intersection, that council wants to
Would that
move
not
forward.
be a cost share thing or would county have to pay for all that?
That
Like
might be
why-
something through the chair that we can discuss with AT on again.
I think we should.
Yeah. If they are looking at delaying
That's
that
such
project
bad.
now for quite a while, then,
Even if we were to pay the installation, if we
Yeah.
kept maintenance.
Honest. So I don't know what the process is going forward. Do we wait and talk to the minister, or do we just put it through now and try to get a rebate back?
Leave it up to Mike.
yeah, I would think if that's council's direction, I can bring an RFD forward here, just to approach AT and work on a cost-sharing model with them that we can hopefully have those lights installed in the short term.
I know a lot of you guys probably don't travel it, but it is a horrendous intersection. Yeah.
And it's off Camber too, so
Anyway,
it's hard
we'll-
to see.
Yeah, it's such an It's not good.
Well, I think now, through the chair, now that they've extended the timeline past, I think we need to reconnect with them again on it. Otherwise, you'll be 10 years before you see anything down there.
Do they usually cost share on these projects for lighting?
If you want to speed it up, you will.
Yeah, for sure. For sure. They're always more favorable to the county putting in
Somebody
some.
else's money.
Yeah, exactly.
OPM.
Somebody else's shared money or cost, total cost?
Total cost moves it a hell of a lot faster than share.
No, I mean, do they usually cost share on some of these things?
We talked about that quite at length on Friday, actually, about how it used to be almost a sure bet if you cost sharing that they would put in some money. Now with the fiscal restraints as well, they're having to look at these projects. We talked a lot about 842 on Friday and the cost sharing that we were proposing for that. And that would have been a slam dunk 10 years ago, they say, and now it's really got to look deep into
Okay.
the money on this.
I think it'd be good for RMA if sit down with the transportation guy and find out what we can do.
So yeah, if you could just bring an RFD back.
You never know.
Do you want to see if we still have time to try and book an appointment with? I don't think we booked with transportation this year, did we?
Is that enough just to talk about it though?
No, we don't have one booked. I can try to attempt to book a meeting with Minister McIver. See if we can. See if he's available.
It's something different than we've talked to him before.
Yep.
Or if a letter suffices.
Instead of just doing
This Groundhog Day?
Groundhog Day?
Yeah.
Oh, it'll come up again.
Well, they've got, like, they know that it's
So
going to
Mike,
cost, what, they've
sorry,
got $26
you
million.
said you got an update?
So
that
that's going to be a long
901
time
and
before they come up with that. So they
number
might
one
do
still
this
going
other
on in
thing, right?
2021?
Band-Aid?
Keep every, yeah,
Yeah, just a
As
Band-Aid.
far as I understand, yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, that one is still going forward. That's one of the ones they haven't pushed off.
Donna, do you want to do a motion just requesting a meeting with Minister of
Yes.
Transportation
I'll
and
make
an
a-
RFD regarding lighting?
I'll do that.
Just then we have it
What she said.
documented.
She said she would like to have a meeting with Minister of Transportation.
Well,
And-
just to see, it may be too late to book one, I'm not sure, but we'll try.
Okay.
And then an RFD regarding
regarding
a
the-
cost-sharing proposal.
Through the chair, is it possible to have Mike contact them and then bring it back to the March 4th or 5th meeting?
Sure.
Let it, then before you make a decision on it? Find out whether they're
Yeah, I'd rather
amenable
that.
to that, or if it's a full cost or cost share.
There's no need to meet with the minister if that's the only thing we're meeting with.
And
It
if
could be
it's not a
solved
cost
over
share.
email.
Yeah, exactly.
Sounds good.
Sure.
Okay.
Thanks,
Do you want
Mike.
to amend your motion?
You just rescind it and let staff deal with it.
I think
And
that would be
information,
great.
yeah.
That would be wonderful.
Refer.
Any questions or discussion? All in favor? Motion is carried. We'll move to Wheatland Regional Corporation Phase 3 water line in road rights of way.
Yes, so this request is from WRC for the installation of the Phase 3 water line through the county road allowances. Typically, whenever a contractor, which is what our WRC is, installs something in our right-of-way, we ask that they receive council approval there.
I mean, on the road like they did in my division?
Right. So for this one, we want to ensure that they follow through with the work and access agreement, they have the proper insurance. As well, I've asked that we revise the design to ensure it's not so much a setback from the property line, but a setback from the shoulder of the road, so we make sure that there's clear traveling distance. Because for council's information, the last phase 2 installation was set at a setback off of the road allowance. Some of the roads are askew and not necessarily centered in the road allowance, so that caused problems with a few above ground structures that they had to put in air release valves and that sort of thing. So to avoid that, we're having a different method of design in this phase.
Council's wishes.
Question, where that goes across the, I don't know what the name of that creek is there, on the east-west road portion of it. Is there we're going to be reconstructing that road in the future? It's on the road program, I believe. Or is it still on the road program?
Clarify, sorry, which one we're talking about? Which road crossing?
I call it Dopkins Hill.
You're saying right at the north
So
section here?
Going east halfway to the road, I can't see what the numbers are here on my map.
Picture.
Takes that little jog and goes across that creek.
Do you have your
I got
pointer
it.
by any chance?
Here, I do too.
That works.
There. The hill there. When we rebuild this road, was there a realignment going to go on there? Or is there some land bought or? Not that it's important now,
yeah,
but make
well-
sure the pipe gets in the right spot for the future road. Because I think some land has been bought, or I'm not sure what's going on there.
Right,
The
I know
fences
we were
are
looking
crooked.
at that in a little more detail. Yeah, we'll ensure that any design on this, just like we did with the first phase, we're rebuilding the road in the future, so we had them lower the pipe a little bit more just to not affect ours. As we get deeper into this design, we'll make sure that any of our future construction takes into account any grading that may need to be done on this, or modifications. Yeah, the corporation's usually very open to changes, and putting a pipe another half meter down is not a big deal on a lot of these things, so.
Yeah, as long as we study it. And
For sure,
Okay.
yeah.
I'll move the recommended action that staff stays involved in planning of the right of way.
Any questions or discussion? All in favor? Motion is carried. Fire guardian appointments.
I'll move the appointment of the fire guardians for Wheatland County for February 18th, 2020 to March 1st, 2021 as listed.
Questions or discussion? Especially Mike Jacobishin.
Just for council's information, one kind of exciting thing that we're doing this year in fire services is that we're now automating the fire permit process. So with the automation of that process, administration has saved approximately between 300 and 400 hours of the admin assistant of that, I guess, department. So that's one huge kind of, I guess, difference this year that's going to be with it. So it will be highly online. And then after everything is approved, it comes to the fire guardian for approval, and it can be any of the fire guardians. Once the fire guardian approves it, it automatically gets emailed back to the person who submitted the application showing their burn permit being approved, with, I believe, a copy automatically emailed to fire dispatch as well, and then a file, or the record automatically being filed with the county's records as well. So it's just really automating this process and making it a lot, I guess, better for the user as well.
So how is the fire guardian informed, by phone or by email
By
also?
email. By
Okay.
email. So instead of the photocopying, the filing, and then scanning all of that to
Yeah,
fire dispatch, scanning it to the fire chief, scanning it to the fire guardians, now it's all automated. So some of these permits can be approved within 5 minutes,
Yeah.
or 30 seconds even, if someone's really on the ball that day.
That's great. Any questions or discussion regarding the appointments? All in favor? Motion is carried. Move to our correspondence. Oh, sorry. Rocky Ford Lions anniversary recognition. Just read it like 30 seconds ago.
Oh, welcome to my world.
Yeah. Do you want to pass those, Donna?
Is this what they're supposed to look like?
They sent out an invitation, I think, to most people in Rocky Ford. I got one. And I know we provide plaques, but I didn't know if 75 years was a milestone or not, but in a community organization, they're having a big celebration. I thought it would be nice maybe if we give them a plaque. So if there's not any questions, I'll move that construct a plaque.
Any questions or discussion? All in favor? Motion is carried.
Mackenzie, I thought a couple of them, that picture with the wheat stems in it, I thought that looks very nice.
We'll move to correspondence. Letter from Minister Madhu, just saying he is still deliberating on the CMRB, but that he believes in the need for strong intermunicipal collaboration. We are continuing our advocacy with the other rural municipalities regarding the growth board. There was a thank you that I received from the Strathmore District Chamber of Commerce. They were very grateful for the support to the business event, and we had some good county representation there. It was a really good event. And a thank you from the Christmas Hampers Society. That letter also outlines the reach. They had a record number of 252 hampers this year, 314 child gift bags. Also, a notification of a name change for one of our energy producers. Motion to approve the correspondence.
I'll move his information.
Councillor Wilson has moved to accept his information. Any questions or discussion regarding the correspondence? All in favor? Motion is carried. Let's take a 10-minute break before the town of Strathmore is not till 11, sorry. Let's move in camera. Call us back to order.
I've been sleeping all through the night now.
Move to go in camera.
All in favor? Motion approved.
This one's still going.
We'll move into the,
Yeah.
I will move that we come out of closed session. All in favor? Motion is carried. I'd like to welcome representatives of the town of Strathmore regarding the Strathmore Motor Product Center partnership. Good morning. If you want to just hit that button on the microphone and just introduce yourself. Welcome.
Hello, Your Worship and and Council. My name is Mark Pretzloff. I am the Recreation and Culture Manager for the town of Strathmore. I'm here to chat about the, I guess, year one operation of Strathmore Motor Product Sports Center. As you can see on the slide here, this first slide talks about some of the specific programming, recreational programming that we endeavored into our first year. This slide details kickboxing, senior size, which was extremely popular, as well as a Mummy and Me fitness class. You can see here some of the details, some of the costs, and the average participation, both from participant uses for these ones. Obviously, some photos of all the three various classes. We're making use of all aspects of the facility. You can see obviously the Magna cementing gymnasium being used here, as well as the lacrosse or artificial turf field making use of. This slide, it's a little bit difficult because of the size of the pie chart, but it talks about all the various user groups that we have within the facility. As you can see here, it is a multi-use facility that endeavors to serve the greatest number of needs for the community. The miscellaneous facility rentals, this is the biggest chunk of it, but this also goes towards elements of the facility that weren't. We have the smaller playing area that's currently just a concrete pad, as well as some of the classrooms that are utilized for birthday parties. So those two areas, as well as the community room on the second level, are those biggest pieces of the pie chart there. So here is a breakdown of the various user groups and the number of rentals, hours utilized, and the total revenue generated for there. So in our first year, considering the facility opened really at the end of January, early February, we are extremely happy with how things turned out. Number of these groups, such as soccer and lacrosse, had to, because of the delays in the construction, were forced to make other arrangements. So we weren't able to accommodate them in the first part of 2019. But now you can see there's a big need or a big usage of them from the fall, and we look forward to that continuing in 2020. Here's, speaking of some of those user groups, you can see what we've had here. We obviously have some potential 2020 user groups from outside of Wheatland and town of Strathmore, including a couple groups from the city of Calgary. The Golden Hill School Partnership obviously is an integral part of this relationship, and you can see how they're making use of the facility. They have a number of tournaments that they've hosted on behalf of Golden Hill School Board, as well as the utilization of the various elements as per their curriculum in their academy. Then they've had a number of other bookings in that facility that are, whether it's a Christmas concert or anything like that, and Remembrance Day ceremonies, etc. Excuse me. Membership sales, you can obviously see here, this is the year to date. We can see our biggest spike when the facility opened in February and March, slowing down then during the summer months when the weather is nice, and then picking back up in fall, and so obviously this is something that we're happy with in terms of the revenue associated with it, but we look to increase this in the upcoming years by offering different promotions and packages associated with buying a membership. So two elements of the facility. We have a track-only membership for those individuals just interested in walking, and you can see the primary individuals here are adults and seniors. And year to date was just over 1,000 memberships sold just primarily for track purposes. And our general memberships, obviously this is not just included into the facility itself, but in July, the town added a all-access membership pass so it's a one-stop shopping where you can use any of the facilities, whether it's the pool, the ice arena, or the sports center, and you can see our sales to date there, $345. Drop in revenue. We have a number of, as much as we try to promote the financial options associated with a membership, you still have a number of drop-ins. You can see here the youth and child drop-ins. We're seeing one of the largest, I guess, unknowns in an open-air facility of this size was the drop-in participation, and we're seeing basketball and youth programming on the evenings exceed our demands or exceeding our expectations. You can see the elements there in terms of the revenue generated. And then looking forward into 2020, so these are some of the facility enhancements we're looking at. Additional boot racks The initial concept was to share the boot rack system that the school board has already in place. We're just finding that on major events, we've exceeded that whenever they host a tournament or other, it's being used, as well as to better serve the members of the public. We're just bringing that a little bit closer just to the inside of the facility. Our donor wall is still being, with those new placement of the boot racks, we have to find a new place for a donor wall. We have a turf sweeper, which obviously goes without saying, a turf coverings who host larger events, protected field, lockers, new scoreboards are already in place in the Magnum Cementing and lacrosse field, and then new programming, youth nights, basketball camps, and more fitness programming. So at this time, if there's any questions, I'm here to ask them or answer them.
Any questions? I have one question. I'm not sure if you can answer it. On the budget and actual comparison, there was just a significant contracted service. Do you know what that was?
Sorry, I missed that. A significant.
Other contracted services. It was budgeted for 3,200 and it was 33,000. I was just curious.
I really can't go into the specific details of that, unfortunately. My guess is that because of the delays in the project, that we weren't utilizing as much as we anticipated, but I could definitely get some answers for you. And
it's not a huge deal. I was just curious. Then the other thing I was wondering is, I know the town does a lot of public relations for like the events. Would that be able to be shared with our communications team so that we could advertise some of the programming and stuff that's going on?
Yes, we can definitely make use of our partnership. I think it worked well when we hosted Rogers Hometown Hockey, and we can definitely extend that whenever we do a promotion to extend on to Wheatland County.
Great. Any other questions for Mark? Any comments?
Did you have sorry, I might have missed it. Do you have the needed finances to do all the facility enhancements?
Yes, we've all those facility enhancement we spoke about are either in capital costs such as the sweeper or the covering, or in operational costs associated with the boot racks. And we already had money budgeted for that donor wall and lockers, so those will come out of some operational dollars. The scoreboards were, like I said, already purchased under 2019.
Any other questions? It was an excellent report. We appreciate the synopsis of the year and the usage and the financials. It's very helpful. So thank you for bringing that. A motion to accept as information.
I will so move.
Councillor Eichert has moved. Any discussion? All in favor? Motion is carried.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mark.
Thanks, Mark.
Do we feel like we need to move back in camera, or are we finished with our closed session?
I think we're good. I don't know what else needs to be discussed.
I just need wording on one thing.
Well, perhaps we will recess then.
I believe there was one motion arising
yes.
from in camera.
I'll make the motion that Wheatland County Council direct administration to review options in regards to water services within the Lakes of Muirfield development.
Any questions or discussion? All in favor? Motion is carried.
Thank you.
Do we want a second? There was a second motion discussed.
I'd just like to work on it a little bit. I'd like to clarify it a little bit. I can, but I want to clarify how to say it before I do it.
I'll just make that Wheatland County match Strathmore's contribution to the lodge. Leave it simple.
To a new lodge.
To the new.
Match their contribution to capital
Match their
funding.
contribution to the new capital project of
Yep.
the lodge. How's that sound? That's simple.
Just for clarification, did council want to maybe want to make a friendly amendment to that motion and include cash contributions? I really,
Like an equivalent cash,
to cash
cash
contribution,
value
or
equivalent
just-
to Strathmore's contribution.
Equivalent in cash, yeah.
Or
We're not donating land or anything like that. It'd be an equivalent cash value.
Cash value, I think, is important to have in that. At the end of the day, as long as the cash value is matched, that's what I was hoping for, yes.
Margaret, how do you feel? To the capital project.
Yeah. Cash value of the new,
Strathmore's contribution
yeah,
For the capital.
capital bit.
project of the Wheatland
Potential.
potential.
Potential capital project.
Do you want it to a specific project, just in case? There is only one, but.
The auditor's gonna like that one.
I don't know if Strathmore
Should we have it reread for clarification?
Yeah, definitely.
is gonna reread it now.
and my apologies, I may have just misunderstood, but would it not, the motion not read something along the lines of that Wheatland County match the town of Strathmore's cash contribution? Or no, just any type of
Just
contribution?
match their contribution.
Yeah, it still has a value.
We just did a capital project of the Wheatland Housing Management Board. Can we just read it one more time? Like, does cash value make sense? Would it just be that Wheatland County will be matching, would it be the value of the contribution? Is that, or what's the most financially appropriate way to word that?
So the way I understand the resolution now and the way I would interpret it personally is if the town of Strathmore contributed land that was valued at, say, $3 million, Wheatland County would contribute $3 million of cash.
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay. Sorry, Margaret. The appraised value of the Strathmore contribution. Yeah. To their contribution, match their contribution. Do we need to say cash value, like their contribution would be valued? Like it would, whether it's appraised or whatever. Yeah,
That sounds better, yep.
perfect, Margaret. Cash value
value
equivalent. For the capital project, for the Wheatland Housing Management Board, potential capital project. Everybody clear? Any discussion?
It's pretty clear.
All in favor? Motion is carried. Yep, motion is carried unanimously. I believe that are the only resolutions coming out of our closed session. So we will recess until 1 o'clock when our MLA representatives are scheduled to attend. I'll call our meeting back to order. I'd like to welcome 3 of our MLA representatives today. We have Honorable Nathan Cooper, Speaker of the Legislature and MLA for Old Didsbury Three Hills. We also have Angela Pitt joining us, Deputy Speaker and Chair of Committees and MLA for Airdrie East. Do I have that right? And we have Joseph Schau, MLA for Cardston-Siksika joining us today. So welcome. We want to congratulate you. Oh, yes. Was it close?
No, that was bang on.
That was bang on.
I'm impressed.
Perfect, excellent.
No one gets it right. First time.
Oh, well, thank you. And Deputy Whip. Okay, my apologies. I thought I double checked this morning, but welcome. We just wanted to invite you here, congratulate you on your appointments, and just have some informal conversation if you have anything to share from a provincial perspective with our council. And we just have a few areas where we might ask you come alongside us and advocate with us for some things that are important to our municipality. Maybe I'll open it up to you guys if you want to start just with any things you'd like to share with us from a provincial perspective.
Okay, well, thank you, first of all, your worship and council. It's a pleasure to be here with you today. Administration, thank you for taking time out of what I'm sure is a busy agenda to host us today. I'd like to, from my perspective, I have been here before and appreciated our ability to work together, particularly around some of the issues that are important to you. I know that the constituency of Old Didsbury Three Hills takes up about 80% of Wheatland County, but only about 20% of your ratepayers, but want to try to do my best to represent those folks in this region. And so where there is areas of mutual benefit or concern, my office, of course, is more than happy to work closely with administration or with members of council to try to advocate for issues that the county sees as a priority, whether that's roads, and I know that we've identified some of those issues with transportation in the past, or with the Ministry of Municipal Affairs, and any issues around growth boards or otherwise that you may have. For your information's sake, I, along with my colleague in Drumheller Stettler, Nate Horner, recently opened a joint constituency office. As you all know, the border of Old Didsbury Three Hills runs all the way to the Drumheller city limit. Nate also needed to have a part-time office in Didsbury, in Drumheller, and so it was a good opportunity for me to save on a significant amount of costs and have a constituency office open for those folks on this side of the constituency on a more regular basis. Not everyone is super pleased that it isn't housed directly in the constituency, but I think providing the services at the border of the constituency as opposed to expecting people or having people drive to Olds to see me is a good compromise and also a significant savings to taxpayers. I would also just say that I am very keen to continue to build relationships here in the county, be it with you or others. I spent this morning in Rockyford hosting constituency meetings at the town office, and so if there is a need to do that, I'm more than happy to meet with ratepayers here as well. So as you all know, I am the Speaker of the House, and so that changes a little bit about how I advocate on behalf of constituents of Old Didsbury Three Hills. Much of the work that I do is done in a bit of a quieter, less public manner, but equally and sometimes as effective as colleagues who are able to advocate a little bit more publicly. So for the purposes of our meeting, if you have any government-related questions, I'm sure my colleagues will be more than happy to provide their opinions. And that's just a good way for me to sort of I think they call that blocking and pivoting in our business. So from my perspective, with respect to ways that we can develop relationships, you are all more than welcome to come to Edmonton. I'm happy to host you as the speaker. I have a few seats that are reserved for the Speaker's office. I know with respect to advocating on behalf of the region, this Tuesday, Amber will be attending the throne speech in conjunction with Darcy and Joe and Corey. All are coming to the throne speech. So it's a good opportunity for folks in the region to connect with ministers of government or my colleagues and really advocate on behalf of the region as well. And those invites are open, are standing invites. If you'd like to attend, we'd be more than happy to do that and work closely to build relationships between the county and cabinet. So with that said, I'll leave more of the sort of government chat to my colleagues. And again, thanks so much for having us.
I'm not sure how much I have to add. Thank you for having me here, and thank you for including me in this meeting, even though I have that little green chunk on the side. You know, I think maybe the boundary guys forgot to look at a map when they made up that constituency, but nevertheless, I hope that I am more of an asset to the needs of this county, and just an additional voice with government in terms of getting things done. So. This is a great meet and greet and a great pre-budget meeting. I think more so, I'm happy to read the correspondence that you guys send. Again, thank you for including me, and I look forward to the dialogue here in this meeting, and you know what your sort of top priorities are going into budget, and maybe over the next 4 years, what your strategic plan is, what you need from us, and I'm happy to help.
I guess I could just say ditto, but but in a serious note, I will just quickly address the fact that it's my first time being here, and though I do have a small sliver of the geographical portion of Wheatland County, I do want to tell you how much I appreciate the work that you do, and how grateful I am to be the representative for Carson Siksika. This is truly an honor, and I know that I'm sometimes envious of the position you're in, because as municipal leaders, you're at the ground level. You know, you get to interact even more so on a one-to-one basis with your constituents than we do at a provincial level, or even those of our federal counterparts. But it certainly is an important role that I don't take lightly, and I'm grateful to be here with you. And being that it's in my first meeting, I'm here to listen, here to hear some of your concerns, and happy to take those up and advocate for you at Edmonton. My colleagues and I were just in Grand Prairie last week for a caucus retreat where we had some robust discussion about what's coming ahead. And I think the general idea here is we're just going to keep more of the same, just absolutely pushing ahead towards completing and fulfilling our campaign commitments, a robust agenda, if you will, moving forward in the spring session. Something I'm incredibly excited about, and the rest of our caucus colleagues are as well. And so, as we continue to roll out legislation when the session begins next week with the throne speech and the budget, I expect to hear from Wheatland County, Carson County, Vulcan County, all my constituents, and continue to advocate for them on their behalf. So with that, I just kind of leave my remarks at that and take questions or other comments as they come.
I will just add that I know Leela probably didn't RSVP to this meeting, but she is sick as a dog after working really hard, being our minister responsible for sport and recreation, as Airdrie just held the 2020 Winter Games, which were super successful. We were super happy to host, and Zone 2, which I think is still this area, cleaned up pretty good. So I should be very proud of our athletes and our minister, and I know on behalf of Leela, she's no stranger to this council, from what I hear.
We did have a good opportunity. Our full council met with Minister here in January, so we were thankful for that opportunity, and we'll continue to stay in touch with all of you for sure. You mentioned budget, and we do have one kind of priority issue that one of our boards has identified. I'm going to ask our board chair for our Wheatland Housing Management Body to just speak to a proposed capital project that the board is considering that we would sure appreciate some advocacy on your behalf, or on our behalf from you. It might be too late for this budget, we recognize, but if maybe a
I heard it might be in there, not in the budget, but
In the
The
bag?
ask
the
might
needs
be
and the
there.
asks,
Yes.
Well, the needs and
Are
the
you,
asks
are you
are.
announcing the budget end?
well, now we have to do it.
Very pre-budget announcement.
So, that being said and heard, thank you. Yeah. For the benefit of Angela, the other two MLAs, of course, come to the lodge. And we had an opportunity and we let it slip by when Angela said she could come one time, so I truly apologize for that. That being said, I give Angela a couple of our needs assessment and our business case and some of the stats from the lodge. I'm thinking the one from the lodge for me, the blue folder one, shows that 93 residents in the last 2 years have transitioned through the lodge. The lodge holds 95 residents. There are residents in there that are quite a bit older and been there for a number of years. So it just shows the average age coming in is 87 and a half years old, I think. Average age moving out is 86 and a half years.
It's magic.
It's magic. They're going in older and they can't stay for their whole life. We don't have that SL4 and continuing care component. So part of our business case was if we could get that SL4, they could stay there and it would make our operation sustainable. If we could build a new, because we don't meet current code for SL4, and if we could build a 165 unit lodge with SL4 and some rentals capacity, we could make it sustainable. So our big ask right now, we're on hold. We've spent probably 40,000 for that study you see there, and we've spent, county's put in 15,000, and I hear Strathmore is about 30,000 just to get to this point. So we're asking for consideration of money so we can put towards study and hire an architect. And I don't know for sure what it costs, but I'm thinking around that $750,000 mark I heard at one time. So if it was in the budget or Minister of Seniors lobby her for us, that would be much appreciated. We have talked to Minister Poe, and she was very, our pawn, and sorry about that, and she was very receptive to the idea. She was very, I'd almost say excited. And we've talked to John Capel, and he was very supportive too. And we've talked to the health down in southern Alberta, Amy Good, and got some tips from her. But now we're just waiting for money. So if you could.
Where do residents who age out
Right now, try and get my numbers right. It's all in the reports there. They put their name in primarily in Sagewood. There's a bill. It's a private care for age care. Dr. Patel has got a contract with Alberta Health there, so a certain number of beds belong to contract Alberta Health, and some are private. So they go there, and if there's not room there, then it's off to a hospital, or Vulcan seems to be our Vulcan, there's Didsbury, they just get split up, okay? So right now, in the lodge, I think our last meeting, there was 65 out of the 95 receiving home care. And some of the home care is not too, it's just home care, you know, pills and stuff, but some of the home care for about 40 of the residents is on bordering SL4. And we'll keep them there for absolutely as long as they can, whether they're looking for a placement, because everything is backed up for sure. The Calgary region has, I think, about 4.85 beds per thousand. I think Alberta is 4.9 or almost 5. And the Strathmore area is 4.2 or 3, something like that. We're behind, but I don't know how reliable the numbers are, because when the province AHS done their study, they're redoing the Calgary, the Strathmore area again, because the numbers they just don't drive up. When you look at the census, our highest age group for population growth was 85 plus at 170% growth. So people are staying here, people are coming here, the county, they move to Strathmore, they move into, and they are staying in the area. So it's our goal to allow them to stay for as long as they can. Otherwise, they'll have to move out. But our highest population growths are the higher age groups at 170%, and that was 2016 census. It's in Strathmore. It's on the north side of town. Well, the center of town now. South and east of the golf course. There's I think they call it Gray's wetlands there, just south of that. Someday we'll give you a phone call on. Yeah. Yes, we have the hospice. Okay, we have motions from the hospice asking and motions from the lodge accepting to become partners in the foundation. We sent the request up to the minister, and I hear it's within a few days of being signed. I don't know if it is or not. So last lodge board meeting, we had a notice of motion that we would requisition. We don't have a value on it, but the value is looking at around 200,000. We'll see what the next meeting brings. We wanted to wait. We're under time restraint. We have to have the requisition in before the end of March, but we wanted to have their name official before we did the requisition, so we could just, so otherwise it lingers on our books. We can just transfer it into their books. And this money is strictly operational money. They need about 800,000 maybe once they get built. They're not built yet, so this is just reserve money, seed money until they grow. So that's one of our partnerships, unique in the province, that the municipalities have taken on this support. We have the Masons, yeah. The Masons have expressed an interest. They have money they would like to, support community housing for seniors. And they have some requirements on the other end, so they are. Yeah. The Lions Club are a board member. So when the board originally formed, when the lodge is there now was built in the 60s, a board was formed. And the Lions Club come in because they had a property in Strathmore and actually were housing a few seniors and part of their community work. They sold that and give it to the new lodge board, and they become a member right from the very start. So there's 3 from Wheatland County, 2 from Strathmore, 1 from Rocky Ford, 1 from Standard and Hazard, yeah, and 2 from Strathmore. That makes up our board of, and in the future 1 from the hospice, so that'll make up 9 board members. I don't know if you heard, Strathmore's without prejudice. We can make use of their land where their current office site is. And this morning, Wheatland County passed a motion that they would match anything that Strathmore contributes towards the lodge. So we have partnerships, we have a commitment from the county, we have a commitment from Strathmore, so to say. Yeah, I don't know what else to do. Any help would be, any advice.
Well, I'm happy to,
Oh, yeah.
because I missed that meeting. And I will, I appreciate this information. I'm happy to advocate on your behalf. Would you say that this is sort of like the council's number one issue?
It's one of our top issues. We have an incredibly high proportion of our population is aging. Like in this region, I think over 75 and over 85, we just have a real disproportionate portion of that population that is in that age group. And the needs have just been growing. Councillor Kester did reference our current lodge was built in 1962. So it's been maintained very well, but it is aging. And then it's just a capacity issue with that growth in population. The other thing, part of our business case does have long-term planning integrated into the business case so that when this kind of flux of seniors, when we get past that, there is a plan to utilize some of that for some market housing, or they have some different plans for that. So we've really thought long-term. So there's some unique aspects to this project. We have three kind of options in the business case, and one of them is actually generates revenue at year 17 because of just the modeling built into it, which is quite unique for seniors housing. That would take support from health because it does have that SL4 and SL4D care integrated into it. So that would take a commitment from health to make that model work, but it's a very sustainable model. And I think it's unique that we have 5 distinct municipalities that are partnering on this and have a history of partnering together. Glenn has sat on our WDEMS, our ambulance board for years. We've partnered with the housing board for several years. We're currently in a partnership agreement with the town of Strathmore with some rec facilities. So we have a solid history of partnering on projects and doing that really well to serve our region. So I think
Almost like you know how to work well together with your neighbors.
well, and do it efficiently, right? Yes. Yeah, almost.
Yeah.
Which is a perfect segue, maybe. So I might not say that our lodge is our top priority, but one of our top priorities that this council has been advocating for many, many years, and significantly again with the change in government, is the Growth Management Board. So we are mandated, oh, sorry.
Just finish it off a little bit. You'd asked about the lodge. Don't want to age myself here, but I'll say about 15 years ago, we started wondering about we should have a new lodge. We're consistently having a third of our population in the lodge was on a waiting list to get in. So we traveled around the province and we advocated, and we ended up with Sagewood, government partnership at the time. And we thought there we're going to have some room. Sagewood, they filled them up as soon as they got the paint dry, and it filled. And we still have close to a third on the waiting list. So the need is there. We can keep the rooms full. It's, yeah, I'm still thinking the best for us, for the clientele we serve, is municipal owned.
Absolutely.
Then I can talk about the ambulance too, if you have a minute after.
Through the chair, with what Glenn has said, a lot of our residents, not a big majority, but a lot of our residents in the east end of the municipality, I know about half of my division, they also use the Drumheller area, and they're housed in the Drumheller lodges, and I think in the Bazzano down south of the east of the 56 are in the Bazzano lodge. So there is those 2 other ones, but this lodge is full of our residents and the one in Drumheller's got a lot of our
I'd even
residents.
say east of the 842.
Yeah, so.
I guess, sorry, there's one more follow-up question on that. Does the lodge accommodate married couples?
Yeah, not as many.
Yeah.
They're 86 or 7 years old moving in, but we do have a couple rooms.
Okay. And then those who need the SL4 care?
That's what we're,
Would
in the new
be a
build
different
is what
scenario.
we're advocating for 40 SL4, and 25 would be accommodations we could rent out. And we would construct it in such a way that if we have to, we could rent more than the 20 out. Because in Strathmore, there is no, next to none, single bedroom apartments or studio type for seniors to rent. We have seniors on their income renting 3-bedroom homes because there is nothing else to rent in Strathmore. Yeah.
And if we could integrate, obviously, that SL4 level care, you could keep couples together longer because you could obviously accommodate that care where one requires it and they could stay together longer. Absolutely.
I got
And
a
we are,
neighbor right now that's living in the lodge and her husband's in Sagewood. Headland. Not uncommon. Or they'll both move to the Sagewood and then the future one will come back to the lodge.
so along with the other rural municipalities in the growth management boards, Wheatland County has been advocating for a couple of different things. Either first, just for Minister Madhu to consider withdrawing us from the growth management board. We have a very small tract of our county in the growth board. So if you look on your map and just the town of Strathmore right there, we just have a very small tract of land along Highway 1 that's included in the growth management region. We have about 800 residents that are in that region. At the fall RMA, with all 69 rural municipalities of Alberta, we did pass an emergent resolution with 89% of support, asking the government of Alberta to remove mandatory growth management boards from the MGA. 89%? Voted in favor of that, yes. So it was a strong message. And RMA has been actively advocating, and as well, the rural municipalities have continued our advocacy efforts with Minister Madhu and his department. Failing to abolish the mandatory growth boards, we asked for consideration of the voting structure to be amended. So currently, there's a 2/3 vote, but it must include also 2/3 of the population. So essentially, Calgary has a veto vote, and Edmonton in the capital region. We are asking for that to be reconsidered. As well, as part of the regulation, it was mandated that there be an appeal process set up when the growth management board was set up. In the Calgary region, no such appeal process has been determined. So there is no appeal process at the growth management board. We have sent several letters to Minister Madhu, and I will have our administration will forward them to your offices as well, just so you have them for background. One of our main concerns with it, obviously there's the red tape. We have essentially a fourth unelected level of government overseeing governance of an area of land that's already governed by municipalities, the province, and federally already. So we've just added that fourth layer of governance into that. As well, it's really stagnating economic development. So when I've heard from developers that are looking at the region, they see the risk involved in looking at developments in these regions, because anytime a statutory plan needs to be amended or an area structure plan needs to be done, not only does it need to pass at a municipal level, it now needs to go to that next level of government to be approved. And so we're hearing reticence from developers at looking at that region. And I know your government and our government, one of our top priorities is economic development and sustainability of our municipalities, and this is hindering that.
Where's your water come from?
So that's a great question. In that region, we don't have servicing. The indication from the city has been that they won't, and Scott sits on the servicing committee, he may be able to speak to this better, but my understanding is Calgary is engaged in some long-term studies of their water capacity and use, and those studies will not be available in time to be integrated into the growth or servicing plan that we're tasked with developing. So at this time, they will not be extended, and please correct me if I'm miswording this.
Saying it right, yeah.
At this time, they would not be looking at extending servicing. One thing that, from my perspective, also complicates things at that board level is several of the municipalities that sit on the board do have exclusive servicing contracts with the City of Calgary. So I won't say more about that, but it could be a factor when you're relying on one of the municipalities to provide your servicing.
Well, in Airdrie, it's a factor, right? And it has been for quite some time.
In
So that's why
several
I
of the
asked about
municipalities, yeah. And I'm just trying to be diplomatic, but in several of the municipalities, it's a factor.
So the Bow River Basin is tapped out, we all know that. Calgary has a certain amount of water. The way some people look at it, they have lots for millions of people. The way Calgary's starting to look at it now, they're looking at that peak flow day demand. So the August and July of 2 weeks of the hottest weather, they're actually going to be diverting more water in those days than their current license allows. So it's more of a storage problem, a raw water storage problem for Calgary, or a treated water storage problem. But they're making it into a regional problem. And, you know, upstream damming, they're looking at all kinds of stuff, but it's really their issue in a sense. So for us, if we want any development here, we're going to have to do our own solution. There's nothing, we have a line running right through the municipality, and I've seen on a document there was 15% allocation for us, 15% for Rocky View. At a board meeting, asked the question for any backing on that. There's no actual backing. Calgary won't release any water. If we gave them our license, we might, but I'm not even sure about that.
No.
And so.
Calgary just said no. You can't
So-
have it.
So there's some history.
You're
on it.
rural and you can't have it.
So essentially, not only is economic development being stifled, but our autonomy is being compromised by having this kind of fourth unelected level of government that is basically can make decisions that affect our municipality. As well, what really surprised me is in conversations with our northern counterparts in the Edmonton metro region, we were talking to them about return on investment. They're about 9 years into their planning process, and they do not believe that they are seeing return on investment in the funds that your government is investing in these growth boards, to the tune of about $2 million a year for each board. So in terms of the county, we've examined our return on investment. So far, our administration have estimated we've invested about $400,000 from our municipality into the growth board. That's mainly in administrative time, but we also do have a lot of council time that's invested in those meetings. The time that is committed to this board is overwhelming. Like for our, we have obviously smaller staff, we're a smaller municipality, but we're still fully participating because obviously our future is important to us. But it's a drain on our staff having to be at all the technical advisory group meetings, briefing us, preparing us for meetings, that type of thing. It's a huge drain.
And
yeah, we have about 800 ratepayers in that region. So I think our staff did a little analysis. I'll just pull it up here.
I think you have to go because if you don't go, your attendance is deemed you're voting in favor of what's ever on that table.
That's a good point.
So you have to go. Like it's staggering. And for us, I mean, there's lots of times Tom and I sit there and I mean, the growth projections are 50 years out before they'll ever get close to here. So we're there because we're supposed to be, and you're voting on things, but it has nothing to do with us for a long time.
Was Wheatland County a willing participant in the CRP prior to the new growth report?
I'm looking to Glenn. Most of us have only sat 2 years, but Glenn was involved in the CRP at the time.
Yeah, should let Ben talk. He was the one who first got in there.
When we first went into the CRP, it was voluntary. And we went in there so that we understood what our neighbors were up to and what they're doing. When they turned it into this chômage that they've got going now, we have always been, we pulled out of it. The government forced us back into it. We have never been in favor of what's in place right now. We were only there at the start because it was a voluntary, just to see what was going on. That's the shortest.
Yeah, I think what got me when we started, it was consensus, CRP was consensus. And they changed it. If you're on the CRP, you have to belong to the CMP, Calgary Metropolitan Plan. It had a voting structure, the double majority type thing. We got out. When we were on the CRP, they were building the water pipeline. And we were full participants in that. We put our numbers in there for people. We needed water at Carsland, or at Gleason, and Rocky Ford was in dire need of water. Participated, come with a grant, and our participation required us to pay $2 million, and we would get a chunk of that pipeline. And we'd pipeline from there out to Rocky Ford and Gleason. They didn't even have it quite here, but just about. And the city of Calgary said, no, you can't have water, Wheatland County. They reneged a little bit and gave it to Rocky Ford. And eventually we would get it to Gleason, they said, but when they found out farmers would actually come in and fill up trucks to spray and stuff, or anybody along the way, no. So we didn't pay our $2 million. Luckily, we didn't get that out of us. But that's the history. We were in, participated, the pipeline come. About that time, the CMP come, and we just said, no, thank you very much. Then the government come and had different ideas. We have a long history with.
And for red tape reduction, servicing, Tom and I were just at the last meeting, and they said, the developer came there and said from dirt to door, right now the process is 13 years to go through this, and that's at the start of this, and how it's getting worse. They're almost talking about reinvesting elsewhere because it's too long to try to get things going on a development.
There was also another member that was in there at the same time we were originally. It was Bighorn. They went out at the same time we did. They have never been forced to go back in there. And you guys should be the ones to be able to tell us why that didn't happen, but it didn't happen, and they forced us to go back in, but they never forced, and they said all original members had to be in there. I could tell you why, but I'm not going to.
Crown land.
So just further to the return on investment, the cost to our ratepayers so far has been around $444 per ratepayer. We only have between 800 and 900 ratepayers in that region. It doesn't sound like a lot, but when you put it in the context of what those same ratepayers have invested in for social services in the county, or what proportion of their taxes go towards emergency services, fire, it's like those numbers are much smaller than this cost, and they're getting nothing out of it other than further regulatory process that is hindering things. I did want to just emphasize that it's not that the rural municipalities, we are all in favor of collaboration, of regional planning. We just think there's a better way to do that. We're involved in a sub-regional economic development project that we're just in the early stages of starting with Chestermere, Strathmore, and Rocky View. That's a voluntary project that we're working on. It's being done efficiently, effectively, and could contribute to economic development. So it's not that we're not in favor of collaboration. All of us want to collaborate. It's the mandatory nature of this, and then the voting mechanism and the lack of appeal process that is the real issue with this. So we have been staying in fairly regular communication with Minister Madhu and his department. We'll continue to do that, but we just thought if we could, because this it doesn't directly impact economic development in the sections of our municipality that you guys represent, but it may indirectly, because if people know we're part of the CMRB, it can impact that. And that's why we've also shared it with Minister Ahir, because it does directly impact economic development in her constituency as well. So just to kind of help you be aware of that, I'll send you the actual resolution that went to RMA, as well as some of the correspondence that we've had with Minister Ahir and Minister Madhu as well. Does anybody else have anything regarding the growth board?
Well, considering the province is spending $2 million a year, I can guarantee you can go anywhere in the region, any of the people that are on CMRB, and ask Joe Public what CMRB is, and they will not have a clue, because it is just so far above everybody's. Everybody just, it's another, it's another branch of wasted taxpayers' money, and it's a hard argument to make on the other side. So, yeah, no, it is like, it fits everything in there, that red tape reduction. This is a no-brainer, but far be it for me to say that.
I guess just two other quick points I'll make regarding it. On occasion, we find significant errors in studies that come out of the Growth Board. We identify those errors, and frequently they're not even corrected because they are deemed insignificant. But we're talking like in the last employment, it wasn't even a projection. In the last employment study of current employment, don't quote me on this number, but they identified 1,350 jobs.
1,500. There were
1,500 jobs.
300% high.
1,500 jobs in Wheatland County's region of the Growth Board. Our population in that region is between 800 and 900. And they show like zero interest in correcting that. There's been other errors. I'm trying to think of specific examples.
Well, was not the population. The population on that.
The population was off.
Was 3,600 people in that Growth Board. Like that's, so if you're starting, we've got 800.
Oh, I know water usage, we've had errors regarding that.
And then you have 3,600 is the number they have, and you ask them how they got the 3,600, they don't, there's no. Then if you go, and then you ask them, well, if you start making your projections on the fact that you've got 3 times more people in there, that's going to skew everything 50 years out. I'm not that smart, but I'm thinking it might.
But the answer we got.
And they don't want to, they will not answer that question.
No, the answer we got was in the whole scheme of things, it's minuscule, which is the point.
It's true.
Is we are minuscule, but if
They
you don't
did
get our
offer
numbers
that-
right, what's the point of us being here?
They did offer that we could fund our own analysis. We're, I think, one of the few municipalities that don't actually do studies on that. Some municipalities do study that. We obviously don't have the capacity, and it's not relevant to the work that we do, so we're not going to invest in that. Calgary's were also off by about 50,000 jobs. I believe they are correcting that, was my.
Nope.
Oh, they're not even correcting that.
Nope.
Okay.
Calgary's not getting it. So the only thing we could do was vote, the only thing we could do was vote in opposition of it, which we did, which was nothing.
Yeah.
It was a waste.
Thank you.
Then just for more fun, there's another level of redundancy at the board. So all of the work funnels through committee first and then comes to the full board. So Scott will see all the servicing things, Tom will see all of the land use and planning issues, Glenn will see all of the governance issues, and then they all come through and I see them all at the board. And so there's so much, and some days are like Groundhog Day there. You just see the same thing keep coming back because the municipalities do not agree. So it's highly inefficient. The last point that I wanted to make regarding it was that some of the rationale for creating the Growth Board is because we know that there are sometimes disagreements, often between rural and urban municipalities that share borders around development. We see them in the news all the time between Calgary and Rocky View. Reeve Belke with Rocky View has proposed an amendment to I believe it's the 690 appeal mechanism to streamline that, to deal with these issues more efficiently. So we are providing potential solutions to these issues. I think the government just needs to have a look at those, a strong look at what can be done to fix this. So.
I just had this conversation with Reeve Belke.
I bet you did.
Actually, I've had this conversation with Reeve Belke for the last 4 some years, so.
Yes. And he's sometimes much better at articulating it than I am because he has sat through more history of this than I have.
Oh,
But
he's not a fan, that's for
I
sure.
think he brought it forward at RMA was the fear that it started in Edmonton, now it's in Calgary. What if Red Deer region, all of a sudden they decide to do this? What if Medicine Hat region? Like, if this model keeps working, in somebody's opinion, not ours, what does this do? Like, it's just it's not efficient. We've had two areas that, the rural areas are getting strong opposition. The urbans definitely want it, and it's all tied to servicing. Is the key that I see of it.
well, and in one of our very first letters to Minister Maddu, we commended the government of Alberta on the work that you're doing with your budget and streamlining and finding efficiencies. We're doing the same thing at the county. We came alongside you. We're accepting some of the download of costs and reduction in income that we're experiencing. But in order for us to be sustainable, we need to look to issues like this that are compromising our sustainability. So that's why we really need consideration of this.
100%. Have you ever made a submission to the red tape reduction
I did, yes.
In regards to
Yeah.
this, yeah.
Yeah, we attended a red tape reduction meeting in Langdon. We did a formal submission there, and I believe we also sent it through the website as well. Yes.
Okay.
That. Another major issue that Wheatland County has been dealing with recently is surrounding one of our composting companies that operates in Wheatland County. I'm not sure.
that one?
You might not be familiar with it, Jason. It's not in your division.
It can be, though.
Yeah, well, I'll tell you, it can be.
We've been in, obviously, legal proceedings, litigation with the company over the last several months. It's been a significant expense, the legal fees for that litigation. We do want to thank Minister Nixon and his department for meeting with us at RMA and for the action. We've already heard from one of the enforcement officers that the regulations are being rewritten, and a draft is actually, I think we heard, being tabled in March. And so we're really excited about the timeline for that. Yes, if you could just lend your voice to ours, just how critical that is. So the quality of life for people living around that compost facility is being unfathomably affected. We're talking to the point of, being nauseous and having to cancel events and not being able to be outdoors with their families. Maybe Scott, it's in Scott's division and he's been dealing with it for years as well, so.
So, thank you. I guess you might hear now that there's no complaints. Well, there's no complaints because there's been no action because the county's put a stop to it, stop work order. And I know that kind of came back in one meeting we had, was that, well, there hasn't been any complaints. And I just want to be clear, there's nothing going on there. It's kind of got a crust on it, it's sealed. The problem's still there.
People had also stopped complaining just because their complaints were.
They had zero faith in Alberta Environment and Parks through several phone calls, through complaints. It got to the point where they were asking for a confirmation number for a long time. Alberta Environment stopped giving them that. We've had several instances of that. This isn't just a problem unique to Wheatland County. There's one in Nehil County, Foothills County, they've talked about some briefly. We've brought it forward at the CMRB as well, because this is a problem created from the bigger urban centers where this starts. I could probably safely say that 95% of the stuff that's in our site here, within my division, probably came from Calgary. And for us to have to deal with these, I look at it as it's an illegal landfill. Some of that stuff is 10 plus years old. That's not what the county would have approved a long time ago. It was supposed to be an agricultural operation, which was in good faith, is what it should have been. It's kind of with that certificate from Alberta Environment saying that they can do this, allows them to do a portion of municipal waste as composting. Calgary passed a bylaw here not that long ago that said they're residential. They're going to divert it from the landfill. They dealt with the residential. That same bylaw also diverts commercial, and that's where the key is here. All the stuff that comes to these sites is all that commercial stuff from your grocery stores, from your restaurants. And it's once that waste stream starts, it does not stop. You end up with this problem. Right now, the waste stream, I don't know where it's going. I'm pretty sure it's not going to ours. I'm pretty sure it's not going to Nehills. Oh, I forgot about the one by Airdrie, which I'm sure you're aware of as well.
Also not operating?
Yeah, so it's going somewhere. So I'm sure once spring hits, we'll find out where it's going to, because the smell will come. And it is an absolute horrific smell. I've had people say, well, you live next to a feedlot, you should be okay with it. Yeah, it's not the same. I've had our staff go there. They've got first whiff of it to truly appreciate what it is. It is the most horrific thing you've ever dealt with. My biggest concern, I have people that live next door to it, the kids that have had some kind of health risks. There's been asthma. There's some kids that have had low oxygen intake at night. There's been some stuff where they've gone and moved away. They seem to be better. I always tell the parents, please mention it to Alberta Health about this. Make sure the doctor knows. No, I've had one parent ask me, I just need to know what's on site so I can tell the doctor. I can't even give her that. We've
So
asked for
further to that,
testing.
we are going to be bringing a request to health just to find out where we can get information on the health effects of composting. And we haven't been able to find anything local around analysis of that. I did find one meta-analysis that I can also send you guys that just for some background information. but it's a significant issue. And so, again, we're not opposed to composting. I've been composting since I was tall enough to carry the compost out to the pile in my grandma's backyard. We compost. I think it's an excellent thing to do, not at the expense of people's quality of lives around those facilities. So it has to be done responsibly. It has to be done in a way that does not have the impacts that these facilities are having. And there has to be a way for the province, because that's really what we're hearing is the province, because the regulation was outdated and really made for, what do they say, leaf and grass clipping, yard waste and grass clippings is what the regulations were written for. It wasn't regulated or written for, you know, chicken wings. Like when you look at what's in there, it was not written for composting and not at the, just at the scale that it's being done now. So we're thankful that they're being rewritten. We will need to really have those new regulations, once they are in place, be enforced, and so that we can like share that jurisdiction and mitigate these effects on people. So,
But the problem's still there. Nothing's really happened other than it's just a holding pattern. Yeah. Really.
Is the NRCB?
no, the only place that federal comes in is, or could potentially come in, is they make like soil amendments, and I have potentially heard fertilizer, but I don't think they quite meet the regulations for fertilizer, where it could be like, and that would be CFIA, I think, right?
Yeah.
But I don't think other than that, there are federal compost regulations as well that are being reviewed and I believe rewritten as well. So we're thankful for that, but it's more just an official, I know you're aware, but just an official awareness that this is a huge issue in Wheatland County. It's been a significant, our staff, again, our administration has invested significant time in dealing with this and really stuck their necks out for our ratepayers to make this right. And council and the county is financially investing a lot to fight this. So and to fight what really was
Not really our fight.
a provincial fight, if you will, because we are upholding our, can we say how much we have invested at this point? Legal fees are reaching $700,000 so for our budget, that's a significant amount of money. We obviously enforce our bylaws and like where we have jurisdiction, but a lot of what we are fighting were things that had provincial regulation. I have a great deal of respect for what Alberta Environment does, and I understand that compost is somewhat low on the, list of potential issues that they're dealing with, or it can be perceived that way, but the impact on people is high, so. Is there anything else regarding composting that we wanted to share?
Smelling subject.
Oh, that's
You've been to the Airdrie one, I'm sure.
oh, yeah.
It's a
Took over
distinct
the whole grocery store
experience.
one day, hey? It was
Yeah.
just like,
Well,
and it's,
in truth, ours has gone in Strathmore. Strathmore has one in town too that's had some challenges, but it's gone as far as Rosebud. It depends which way the wind goes. It's pretty concentrated plume.
yeah, there's nothing to.
No, it's
There's nothing that.
incomparable. Glenn, you wanted to speak to ambulance?
Yeah, if I can. I'm chair of the ambulance board. Call it WADEMSA. It's municipally owned. Strathmore, Wheatland, Rockford Standard, and SAR. We want to bid to be contracted by AHS, so we have 3 units and we contract them out to AHS. So
Sorry, say that again?
we contract to AHS to deliver ambulance services. So we used to do our own dispatch, but AHS took that away from us. And it's done in Calgary. I believe it's Calgary, was in Red Deer. I think it's back in,
I think it's Calgary
doesn't
now.
matter, AHS does it. We have developed a system of first responders in the county, fire crews. AHS has went so far as we've bought 8 Lucas devices and given them out to the first responders, the fire departments. A Lucas device is is a manual or an automatic CPR. It does chest compressions, perfect chest compressions. We've had excellent results with it, but it doesn't do any good if we don't get dispatched out. So we still do call answer 911 in Strathmore. Ambulance, fire, or police. They say ambulance, push a button, goes to Calgary. They take down the particulars and they dispatch an ambulance. That part's good. But sometimes they forget to dispatch first responders. And this has been going on for a few years now. So we've had a Band-Aid solution. It's not 100% all the time, but we'll ghost call answer 911. We'll ghost, we'll stay on the line if they can and see where the emergency is. And they will dispatch the fire department. If they get another call, they have to go off and answer another call. So that has to be fixed. I could tell you horror stories of different things that have been dispatched out here, but it's taken forever to get fixed. That I would like to see the better cooperation. Or town of Strathmore has never had a response, first response in their fire department. They have lots of people take CPR and whatnot. They have first response now because the ambulance isn't in town a lot of the time. We used to dispatch the ambulance out the door in 90 seconds, 95% of the time. That was our mandate. Now, to get an ambulance there, it is twice the time as the distance of the closest ambulance. And sometimes the closest ambulance could be in Calgary. So what used to be in Strathmore a couple minutes can be an hour.
How does that work if they're your ambulances?
We lost control of the dispatch. Okay.
So do you get money back for that?
Yeah, we get paid for the ambulance. We have probably 8 years into the contract. It's a 10-year contract.
So if your ambulance goes to the hospital in Calgary, and AHS then uses that ambulance
Go
for
someplace
something
else in
else,
Calgary.
you get a check.
No.
You have no ambulance, but
No, that's not how it works.
Oh.
We get paid so much a quarter.
Oh, okay.
Okay. Then they take that ambulance and then they run with it. So an ambulance can go to Calgary and it can stay in Calgary. And eventually it'll come back home. There was a program in Calgary, I don't know if it's still running, I'd have to check. But the last half hour of the shift, Calgary ambulance drivers, for them to get home, they would not get any calls in the last half hour. They would call our ambulance to go into Calgary downtown in that half hour time span to do a call. They didn't care when our guys come back home. So our shift is a twofold problem. Our shift, we have our advanced life support is 2 12-hour shifts. They come in, work their 12 hours, go home. And another shift is there, work their 12, and away it goes. The other two are Core Flex. They're on for 96 hours, and then they're off for 96 hours. So it's Core Flex. So they're supposed to work 4 hours a day, core hours. So they come in and they do their work, keep the place neat and tidy, or if they're on an ambulance call, that's fine. Then the rest of the day, they're on flex. So they get an ambulance call, away they go, whenever it is. But after 14 hours, they're to book off as tired. You can't work them 24 hours. So it used to work pretty good, but now we have an ambulances booking off because we haven't got crew for them. They've worked the 14 hours, and then they have to go have a rest. So I believe last year it was 2 months. We've had ambulance shut down the equivalent of 2 months because our workers were tired. Which would be okay if you're still going to bed at a certain time, but these core flex, they're getting their rest. 9 hours can be midnight today, maybe tomorrow it's 9 in the morning. It's not good. So I think last year, the legislature passed family workplace legislation. You couldn't work anybody like that anymore. And you had to get so as soon as that was passed, Alberta Health went to Labor and got a variance for 2 years so they can keep that shift. And we can't. It cost us about $1.5 million to get rid of that shift, and we don't have $1.5 million. We only get to spend the money the province gives us. The municipality can't even help out and put any money in. The AHS made that against the. So right now we're in union negotiations. We've gone to mediation. We can't. We got no money. We're strapped, and we need help for dispatch and for the shifting. Yeah.
And we're losing.
Yeah. So the fear is we'll lose employees. Our core flex ones can go work in Calgary, get the same money, and get to go to bed at night. So we're hurting.
Thank you for sharing that. Are there any other issues we want to share?
Not an issue, but it's on the upside, it's on the positive side, where I sit as a member of this council with SAWA, Southern Alberta Energy from Waste Association. We've been working for 10 years, 12 years to put an energy from waste plant. And tomorrow we're having a board meeting, and at the end of that board meeting, there'll probably be an announcement made as to where the shortlist, there's 3 municipalities shortlisted for the site, and there will be an announcement made at the end of that board meeting to the public where that preferred site is going to be. We've got vendors lined up at the border waiting to see what's going on, when international vendors. We've got international money, people with international connections on the money side looking to get into it. We've had come in. It's 52 municipalities, 6 waste commissions that have been working on this, and we're still on the same path. And hopefully tomorrow we can start making the last. And as a compliment to your government, we've had more correspondence with your government in the last 6 months than we had with the previous one in 4 years, and we met every single one of their mandates, and yet we couldn't get in the door to talk to them. So thank you for that. We really appreciate it. And we've met with the minister, and he's opened up some of the doors for us and offered us some of the help of his staff to Minister of Environment to keep moving this thing forward. So thank you very much for that. It's a positive move, and hopefully it works.
Congratulations.
Tomorrow we'll find out. Newell County, Vulcan County, and Wheatland County are the 3 counties that were shortlisted, and we hopefully will hear tomorrow.
And they cover all of your area, every one of you.
Yeah, absolutely. The municipalities, like Councillor Armstrong said, there's 52 municipalities involved in the association, so.
Money.
Everything just needs money.
Well, thank you all so much for the information, and see most of you at RMA.
Yes.
Can I ask one more question? Just maybe a conversation for you guys. Like I said, this came up between a few farmers the other night, and I was just curious what your guys' plans are with the orphaned and inactive wells. I know that's a big issue, and it's going to be a big price tag.
I would say coming very soon, there'll be some information on that.
Because, I mean, even in my area and a little further east, you're starting to see a lot of farms have backup generators, natural gas backup generators with abandoned well or orphaned well an eighth of a mile away. That's still producing, but nobody's watching it. That's your guys' liability. If, like, somebody, and this is a pull out of left field, but I know a lot of producers are willing to take that liability on. Get off the grid and to run a more sustainable operation. And I think it's something that it's an out of the left field idea, but it has to be looked at.
Or a mix of such, yeah. Yeah.
And I'd like to thank the government. We have water at Rosebud coming next year, maybe this year. They're very appreciative. We had a meeting there, and they're all very happy. They're going to get the same quality as water as Rocky Ford and Standard and Gleason have now. Thanks for that, for funding that partnership. That's another partnership in the county. We've get water online. Thank you.
And just thank you for your leadership and
You guys are great communicators as a council, and I'm very, I'm grateful for that. It makes our advocacy a little bit better, so, yeah.
well, we're
done.
genuinely grateful
Well
for the
done.
time that you've taken to come and meet with us. We genuinely appreciate it. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you.